is happening, my friends? Welcome to another great episode of the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day. Whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz, look, as always, we're diving deep and keeping it real. So do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. My friends, I'm so excited to have on today's conversation. We have a special guest, Mr. Melik Abdul. He is a Renaissance man, really. He's a political commentator, writer, radio host, as well as one of the rising conservative voices of our time. He is a Republican strategist. As you know, I'm a friend of all people, right? Everybody's welcome, and I'm fortunate to bring on folks from all sides of the aisle. And I truly do respect his opinions when it comes to politics. Now, I might not agree with it, but hey, there's nothing wrong with that. We've been following each other on social media, and we've left comments in response to each other's posts, and disagreement or agreement. So at the end of the day, it's civil conversation, man. I'm very fortunate to have this gentleman on. For all you CNN and News Nation watchers, you probably this is a familiar face for those who's watching this program. So and the name probably sounds familiar as well. I've been following this gentleman for quite some time, and I'm seeing his trajectory continue to rise, as I mentioned, as one of the rising conservative voices, specifically Black conservatives. Because look, it's not foreign that they exist, y'all. Let's be real. Let's be upfront here. And as a member of the Black community, look, conservatives exist. Okay, I was raised in a conservative Democratic household. That's probably why I lean more in the middle on everything. But I'm looking forward to this conversation with Melik, and just again, honored that he is taking the time out of his busy schedule to join us here on the show. As always, to you all, the listeners and viewers out there, thank you so much for taking 1 hour of your time to tune in to the program. We are continuing to grow each and every step of the way when it comes to subscribers, viewerships, listenerships, the whole 9 yards. This is episode 273, y'all. 273. We are continuing to grow. There is we drop new episodes Monday through Fridays, 5 days a week, at 7 p.m. on our YouTube channel, The Arrington Gavin Show, as well as on Rumble and wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's iHeartRadio, Odyssey, Spotify, all major podcast platforms. You can tune into The Arrington Gavin Show, and you can also listen to episodes of our program with our friends over in the Metro Atlanta area, WDJY 99.1 FM, Straight Talk, Monday through Fridays at 11 p.m. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show. So, as I mentioned, we got a lot of great stuff in store for you all, and we want to keep that momentum going. Let's see here. Because I want to give as much time with our guests on the show, what I am going to do, I'm going to do our fun fact of the day, our regular tradition we like to do here on the pod. I'm going to do that before we hit to a commercial break. But before I do that, I do have to mention ways you can continue to support the program. Follow us on all of our social media platforms at the Arrington Gavin Show on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, as well as on Substack. I'm new to the Substack. I look at it as almost like an open diary. When it's something that is on my mind, and I'm like, okay, I don't feel like talking about it. Well, let me just go ahead and let the fingers do all the talking. And we have some great stuff on there, and we're working on a Patreon page as well, where we have some exclusive content. So be sure to stay tuned for all that great stuff. And then, lastly, I want to thank some of our proud supporters of the Arrington Gavin Show. So hint, time to pay the bills. So hold tight as I shout out some of our proud supporters, like the Dapper Luke Collection. Attention, gentlemen, it's time to elevate your wardrobe. At the Dapper Luke Collection, they believe style isn't just about clothes, it's about making a statement. From tailored suits that fit like a dream to casual essentials that define effortless sophistication, Dapper Luke Collection has it all. Weddings, interviews, or night out on the town, they've got you covered. Be sure to visit the dapperlukecollection.com on their website, or you can check their store locations. They have 2 locations, one located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and then also another one located in Baltimore, Maryland. My good friend Dapper Luke, like I said, he's a dear friend. He designed my full suit for my wedding, and I've had a bunch of other custom pieces through him. Black owned, veteran owned company. Great, solid dude, man. And I'm telling you, he keeps you. It's in the name, Dapper Luke. He is truly, truly one dapper individual. And as a business owner and a person that's involved in media, especially here on the local level, when it comes to events, I always want to make sure I look sharp. And it's important that you all, if you happen to be business owners, make sure your appearance is sharp, right? That's a part of your brand. So I highly recommend, and he works with women and men. Okay. It's not just men, women and men. And he makes some amazing pieces. So I want to thank the Dapper Luke Collection for being a proud supporter of the Arrington Gavin Show. All right. Let's move it on to our fun fact of the day. Normally we do this after our commercial break, but I wanted to throw in this beforehand. Let me go ahead and bring that on. Give me 1 second. So on today's fun fact, did you know, now I think our guests will enjoy this one. Did you know that Beyonce was the first Black woman to headline Coachella in 2018? See, I'm looking backstage. I see our guest over here smirking. Yeah, that was for you. That was for you, buddy. Beyonce was the first Black woman to headline Coachella in 2018, and her performance was so iconic that the festival was nicknamed Baychella. She even rehearsed for 8 months to perfect the show, which paid tribute to HBCU universities, historically Black colleges and universities. And it was an iconic performance. So again, that is our fun fact. As you know, we like to throw in a fun fact here and there on the program. And yeah, just figured, I'm like, okay, dude, because of our guest is a huge fan, I wanted to toss that one up. So let me go ahead, guys. We're going to head to a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Again, you are tuning into the Arrington Gavin Show. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks.
Become a man of distinction with Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Order our scented beard oils and beard balms to help you maintain and grow the perfect beard. Order today. Try our men's care products like the full body exfoliating cleansing bars, body wash, smooth stash, and more. Log on to our website or download our app to place your orders. Rugged Evolution Beard Care. We're your luxury but affordable men's care line. And remember,
rugged is the new smooth.
All right, my friends, welcome back. Welcome back to the Arrington Gavin Show. Before I bring on our guest, I wanted to share this soundbite of some of his great work. As I mentioned, for those who are familiar with our avid CNN or News Nation viewers, the man's been on multiple networks, mainstream networks that you tune into, whether if it's Fox News or MSNBC, you name it, he's been on it all. And he's actually written a lot for a lot of publications as well. So here's a quick soundbite from our guest here. So hold tight. Let me go and play that for you, and then we'll introduce our special guest as he's waiting right there. So kindly in the green room, let me go and play this for you guys.
Now, in 3 years into this war, there was the World Economic Forum. There was another event, I think somewhere in Switzerland, where Ukraine, they've hosted these peace summits. In each of these, Russia was not present. So I think it's a very good thing that Donald Trump is at least talking to Putin, because the world has pretty much shut him out. You can't have a peace summit without inviting the other party there. So I think it's absolutely significant. But if you listen to Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense said that this issue of this possibility of Ukraine getting NATO membership, it is a no. And if you consider what our military has said, even last year, you have military analysts saying that Ukraine, this is aside from the 2014 borders, that Ukraine was unlikely to get any of the territory that Russia has gotten so far. I think that it is now time to have a serious conversation about our investment in Ukraine. And I think that Donald Trump is doing the right thing with forcing these sides to actually talk, because Europe was not interested in. You consider what we're now in 3 years into this war.
So let me go ahead and stop that right there. So that was just a little bit of our guest that we have coming forth. Like I mentioned before, y'all, this brother is one of the rising conservative voices in front of our lens, at least for us young folks, right? When we look on the news and we see when it comes to Black conservatives, this, you definitely know who this gentleman is. Without further ado, as I mentioned before, radio host, political commentator, Republican strategist, as well as writer, Mr. Melik Abdul. Let me go ahead and bring him on for you guys. Let's see. Melik, what's going on with you, boss?
Man, with that type of introduction, I feel like I should have some type of like opening line, like peekaboo. I'm gonna put them boogers on the chain, or something,
Hey, look, I'm a person who I always give flowers when flowers are needed, man. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, man. I know your passion. I know the work you've been doing. And one thing I will say, you are, one of your objectives is to always keep people within your community informed, right? And I think that's why I always have respect, because you're in a tough space. You are a Black conservative, Black Republican, as well as a member of the Black Americans for Trump, coalition. So you are part of the MAGA movement. Can I say that?
Sure.
Okay, so that right there is that's a hard position to have again here in 2025. But before we get going with some more of the topics and conversations that I want to hit on, for our audience, man, could you give a little bit about yourself? You weren't always a member of the GOP. Really, I mean, this was like not too long ago when you were on the left. Can you please explain?
Okay, yeah. So I didn't know if we were going to talk about that now or after the introduction, but that's all folded into it. But you're right. I'm native of Mississippi. I've been in DC for quite some time now. Grew up as a Democrat. I think I'm probably the only Republican in my family, or at least the only one that I know of. And I was one of those, longtime Democrat, two-time Obama voter, turned Bernie bro, turned now three-time Trump supporter. So it's funny about the Black Americans for Trump coalition, because a lot of people, they saw the CNN clip, and CNN, they had in my lower third that I was a member of the Blacks for Trump coalition. Now, the irony about that is that that list, it went out in a press conference. I think it's probably still on the Trump campaign page. They released that list in June of last year. Nobody picked up on it. I literally was sending that to bookers because I don't know. Can I go back a little further?
Absolutely.
So Donald Trump was the first Republican I voted for, and that was in 2016. The first time I stepped in front of a camera was in October of 2018, and it was during the launch of what is now Roland Martin Unfiltered. I think I was on the show the second week that he launched his digital platform, and I was on Roland's show. After that one time, his producer asked me would I come back, and then I came back the next week. And when I came back the next week, she asked me would I be interested in doing a recurring Tuesday slot on Roland's show. So I did that for almost 2 years, every Tuesday. And a lot of people remember me from the Roland days where we would going back and forth. That was really my introduction. That was my introduction to media. As far as being able to debate or anything. So I've kind of been at this for a while. So but anybody who's done any media or just basically not hiring a PR firm or something to actually do those bookings. Anybody who's been in the game know that if you don't have people to put you on, it is a long, hard slog. So
Absolutely.
I've done, Fox News a couple of times, but
Mhm.
Fox News don't call me. And just to explain how this works, when you're doing this by yourself, I've stopped doing it maybe over the past couple of years, but
Mhm.
you're sending out a clip of you to bookers at all the networks, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, News Nation, like all of them.
Mhm.
And probably, if you just doing this from scratch, like building this from scratch, more than likely they're not going to respond to you. So
Mhm.
it's not as if I haven't been putting myself out there, but it was a couple of things kind of connected at the
Mhm.
same time, and that was my criticism of Elon Musk, which I had a lot of.
Mhm.
Um, but also, I just happened to reach out to a producer at CNN, somebody that I hadn't reached out to before, even though I'd been reaching out to people at CNN for years. And she was interested. And so there was Abby Phillips' show, and Abby was here in DC
Mhm.
filming one of her shows. She's based out of New York City. And so I did that one show that one day, and then they asked me, could I come back to New York the following week? And so I've now been on Abby's show, I think probably for the past five weeks or so. I've been
Wow.
going
Wow, that's
on,
awesome.
but it's a chance thing. It's nothing that was orchestrated or coordinated in any type of way. It literally was just, well, this must have been the time. But when I talk about the Black for Trump,
Mhm.
I've used that pitch everywhere to say, hey, I'm a member of the Blacks for Trump coalition. I sent them a kid of me, making points, depending on the network, because everybody
Mhm.
understands. So, if you're sending something to a more conservative network, you are all in all things Trump. You sending something to a CNN or MSNBC or even probably like a News Nation, then
Mhm.
you have to moderate your position where you're may have some criticisms of Trump or criticisms of the
Mhm. Mhm.
Republican Party, but it is not, as a conservative, especially as a Black Republican. Well, as you're in this space, it's already hard out there for Blacks in media, period.
Hey,
Um,
hey, hey. I mean, you speaking to the choir. You speaking to the choir, ball.
yeah, but imagine there being an even smaller number of people who are Black and Republican in this space. And so the opportunities are, even if you're not connected to the campaign or
Mhm.
you're not connected to some entity in the party, it's hard out there. It is
Yeah.
absolutely hard out there. So I have been appreciative. I mean, seeing I'm going again this week. I'll be on there the Friday and Saturday show, but they can decide tomorrow, at the end of this week, okay, well, we're over him now. And then I'll be back in it all over again, because at the end of the day, what most people who you see on television, they're
Mhm.
trying to get put on. So they're trying to basically get paid. Most people that you see, and people don't realize this, most people that you see on all of these networks who are like part of the regular cast, they
Mhm.
don't get paid for that. Now, if you are a Shermichael finally got a CNN,
Yes, as I think
paid
as a
gig,
regular political commentator. Yep.
right? But that's not something that is available to lots of us, and especially in the conservative space.
Wow, wow. No, well look, I am advocating for them to hopefully make you a regular, sir, cuz like I said, I've been tuning in, and shout out to Abby Phillips show, because I do think now I'm enjoying it more, cuz at first I felt like it was a lot of the bashing and yelling back and forth, and I'm not going to lie, that's really not my cup of tea. Like, I understand it and I respect the passion, but I think in today's society, that's what runs people a lot, from the news, from politics, from even voting, because they're like, oh, we get tired of seeing all this back and forth, and yet we hearing politicians and elected officials fighting for unity, coming together, this and that, which, in all honesty, you rarely see stuff like that. Now, leaving the Democratic Party. Look, please share with the folks with that, because I've never really considered myself a Democrat. Yes, I voted for Democrats. I voted for Republicans. I literally always will go with my with my best interests. Me personally, I'm always advocating for more unity. So that's why I just say I could never put a letter in front of my name personally.
Mm-hmm.
But you, sir, left around 2016, which is really
2016.
not so,
Mm-hmm.
not a far pitch or far distance. And you've been a key supporter in the GOP. What made you well, actually, let me kind of backtrack it. What got you involved in public and local office? Where did that, was that something that what followed you personally, or was that something that you pursued and said, look, I have a passion for this, I think I want to pursue this long term?
So it's something that I actually just kind of fell into, that I was interested in. And this started as when I was a Democrat. I had worked on volunteered for a number of local campaigns here. I was heavily involved and opinionated when it came to how our city is run, how our government
Mhm.
is run. And in 2008, I volunteered. Well, it was a paid volunteer. Well, I guess you're not a volunteer if you pay.
The
But
man said
I
paid volunteer. Can we clip that, please? No, I'm joking.
right. On the Obama campaign, where basically I did a lot of canvassing, door knocking around the DMV, Philadelphia areas like that.
Mhm.
By the time I had done that, I had already been involved, or at least had an interest in local politics. And my view of government, particularly the federal government, was based in, I think, probably what a lot of people, and I definitely say Black people, are led to believe, that the federal government is ultimately the arbiter of what happens in your life. And so I had a lot of
Mhm.
expectations of, like many people, of the first Black president. I realized
Mhm.
once he got in office that a lot of those expectations were not just unrealistic, but they were also unfair.
Mhm.
And when I started to think about just the things that were happening in the Democratic Party, big supporter of Barack Obama. I supported Barack Obama before the Iowa caucuses, when many Black people were
Wow.
still supporting Hillary Clinton. But I noticed even then that we started questioning things in a very different way. So a lot of criticism was against Tavis Smiley. I'll put Cornell, to the side. But the
Mhm.
things that Tavis Smiley was asking about, what is Barack Obama's plan for Black people, I saw us started criticizing him. Now, I never criticized Tavis,
Mm.
but I started to think about, well, whoa. This is
Yeah.
something that we always ask. We always ask, what you go do for us. But I
Mhm.
saw that people then started criticizing Tavis, saying, well, you shouldn't be asking those questions. This is our opportunity to have a Black president. And if you fast forward just through his administration, and I always encourage people, there is a list that Barack Obama put out. And if you guys are out there in your spare time, Google African American accomplishment and African American progress during the Obama administration. And this is a pager that the Obama administration put out, where they were citing the accomplishments or success his administration has had when it comes to Black people. And if you look at that list, outside of maybe HBCUs, and that's still questionable, because
Mhm.
people kind of think when HBCUs get money that the Hispanic serving institutions and other institutions don't get money. No, they get money too. But if you look at that list, you will see that there is nothing specific that Barack Obama cites as far as his success when it comes to Black people on that list at all. And this was part of my evolution in my, as I said, expectations of what the federal government does, because I realized that, wait,
Mhm.
well, the things that impact me the most, probably about 90% of that happens at the local level.
Mhm.
So the issues that I may have with schools, whether it's crime, whether it's affordable housing, healthcare, all of these things, your local government controls that. But the big thing that kind of got me, like, I was like, oh no, I'm out of here. I had said that if the Democratic Party nominated Hillary Clinton, I was out of there. I was absolutely out of there. And to be honest, if Joe Biden had been nominated in 2000, if he was the nominee in 2016, I more than likely would have voted for Joe Biden. But I was dead set. When it comes to not just Hillary Clinton, but Bill Clinton, I did not like the position that they had in the Democratic Party when it comes to this kind of Camelot, mindset that people had when talking about them two specifically. But I'd said that if she became the nominee, that I was rolling out. And I started, even though I was a Bernie bro in 2016, but I went into it thinking that, well, I'm probably this year, if they nominate Clinton, I'm probably gonna vote for Jeb Bush because I'm a fan of the Bushes. I worked in the government under the Bush administration for about 10 years. Well, starting in the GW Bush administration back in 2004. So I had experience in government. I like the Bushes. I like the Condi Rices, and I like all of them. But by the time that the primary had ended, Jeb Bush got out, I think probably in the first.
My man said deuces. That was a short-lived campaign. I remember that one. That was very short-lived. And you're naming folks, and you mentioned, Condoleezza Rice, the Bushes. You're mentioning Republicans that and I quote Bill Maher calling it, good as it gets Republicans, right? And I think that's something, folks can agree on, because there is, and we'll talk a little about this a little further on, but there are disconnects within the own party system, with the Democratic parties as well as the Republican Party. But I didn't mean to cut you off. But go ahead.
No, that's a very good point. But I mentioned them specifically because that is my worldview. Now it has matured over the years, but that hasn't changed. So I tell people that I willingly I embrace the whole MAGA label, but my political evolution as a Republican is tied to the election of Donald J. Trump. But a lot of my worldview was not based around Donald Trump. And I think that's probably what happens now. And you saw it even when Barack Obama was in office, that there are these people are navigating to these personalities. So they may not even be supportive of the party. They are supportive of a person. Well, see, with me, I never moved to the Republican Party because of Donald Trump. It was been a long time in the making. So a lot of my views on the Republican Party were shaped by people other than Donald Trump. It just happens that my first time voting for a Republican coincided with the election of Donald Trump. So that's why when people, and much to the chagrin of many Republicans, because let's be clear, when I joined the party, I wasn't absolutely welcomed because, you had been a Democrat all of your life, or you're a Trump Republican. Which is why when I talked about like not having anybody to put me on, I have seen people for sure who the only thing they had to do was throw on a MAGA hat, change their Twitter handle to "I am Trump's black grandson." They're being retweeted by members, in the Trump circle. They get media interviews. They get on the interviews with the MAGA hat on. Well, see, I could have done all of that. I know people who did those very things and who are sitting quite nicely now,
quite comfortable,
because because they were willing to do that. Now, it could have helped me, but that's not something that I was ever interested in doing. So when people hear me now, that the clip that kind of went viral where it was Black Americans for Trump member criticizes Donald Trump or whatever, anybody who's followed me for any period of time know that I've always been willing to criticize.
That's not
Donald
foreign.
Trump.
Yeah.
But it was the perfect storm because you had the lower third, even though I never mentioned my affiliation with Black America. I never mentioned it on the show at all. It was in my lower thirds. And because it was in my lower third, people then saw me as representing the Black Americans for Trump coalition, which I never did, but very little about my worldview has changed even since becoming a Republican. So a lot of those things that I'm still sensitive to when I tell people, well, I like G.W. Bush, I like the Bush. How could you like, well, I like Mitch McConnell. How could you like Mitch McConnell? It's because I can, this idea that you get to dictate to me the type of Republican I could be, the type of conservative I would be. That's the same thing that I felt when I was a Democrat, because people were telling me, what do you mean you're not pro-choice? How could you be Black? How could you be this? How could you be that and not support all of these various things that the Democratic Party, for my purposes, began to be? And that's what I reject now when people are telling me that, well, you can't both support Donald Trump. Because I think the larger thing is that we are so unaccustomed to turning on the television and hearing people, whether it's Democrat or Republican, be willing to express some objective criticism of their own
part.
We're so unaccustomed to it.
Hey, look, I think, Pastor, can you say it one more time for the folks in the back? Because I've said it so many times on the show, and I've been criticized from times, just for example, just having folks from opposing sides. Like I said, I'm close friends here in the Hampton Roads area. I'm close friends with with my city's Democratic chairman. I'm good friends with the Republican chairman. I'm just a person. I'm invited to all the parties because I'm like, okay, we might not agree on the same thing, but at the end of the day, we want to see the same outcome. We just have a different way of kind of like the journey. Our journey is just a slight different on how to get to that level. But what you had just said nailed it on the head, because I've criticized both parties, especially the Democrats in recent years, because their strategy sucks. I mean, let's just be honest. This past election bit themselves on the foot because you let I feel like I repeat this so many times, but you let an old man tease that he wanted to run for president, run for re-election, which that was already a unmade promise that he had made to the public, because he said he was going to be, really a one-term president. So he teases it, and then all of a sudden he says, well, I think it's about that time I need to opt out. Too late now, because you give it to someone who barely made it through, or did not even make it through Iowa when she ran for president. Right. And then you give her 100 days. Let's not forget, she is a female and she is a Black woman. And I hate to always, but those are just key things people always have to realize when it comes to vote. Look, it's hard enough for women to really take it up there as far as on the political level. So it's a harder position for them to do. But I was over the Democratic Party. I'm still am to this day, just because the strategy was awful. I think they had they never listened to what the public tells them, because you have guys like James Carville. He said many times, and not just him, but multiple folks, you should have some small version of a primary so you can really pinpoint exactly who, because you had folks that wanted to run. You had congressmen, you had Marianne Williamson. You had people that wanted to take that leap, and then you had folks that said, well, look, let's do like some kind of a primary. They didn't want to listen. What happens? They lose, and they lose by a landslide. They lose the House, they lose the Senate. What irritates me as far as what the Democratic Party, and then I'm gonna stop bashing the Democrats, but I just want to say again, one side was listening to what the people were speaking about. Cost is very high. They want to talk about the economy, and that was really like the primary thing. That's what the Republican side, I did realize, during the Trump campaign, he spoke a lot about, hey, dollars and cents, stuff that people wanted to focus on. With the Democratic side, I mean, it was women's reproductive rights. Don't get me wrong, that's an important key factor, but what is the majority telling you? What is the majority saying? Okay, I hear you, but I'm too old. I'm not old enough to have a baby, but I have a business. I want to talk about taxes. You know what I mean? It's just like, be realistic here. And I think that's what that's what the party is failing. And then on top of that too, I'm just with both parties, I think that there should be term limits in the House and in Senate. I respect seniority, but I get tired of seeing, either somebody in a wheelchair or somebody in a walker. And I'm like, look, and I'm not gonna say any names, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, but
Yep.
I'm just saying, like, it's a turnoff for folks, and folks get very, very frustrated. And kind of, I know I'm going off here, but kind of going back to the criticizing your own parties. John Fetterman, as much as he's an interesting guy, he rocks a hoodie and shorts regardless of the weather. That man rocked it during the inauguration. I'm like, okay, this man, I get it with the brand inserts a little too much here. Put on some pants. I know you're cold, but like, what was he doing here? But I feel as though, like, his role is kind of like the replacement to the Manchin. Now that he's finished in office, Joe Manchin, I think he's now kind of like that replacement. Which I never dislike their opinion on things. I'm like, hey, look, if that's their decision, that's their decision. If they're gonna do whatever is for the people rather than what's for the party. And I think when it comes to both political parties, the divisiveness is, I mean, it has to be dealt with. I mean, come on. If someone says, well, the president decided to wear a blue tie, I wish he would have wear red. Oh, you criticize, go. We gonna shun you for about a week, and then we'll maybe bring you back into the club. I mean, it's child play in a sense.
No, so I agree with that. And I think, and you were making a point about the Democrats, and I'll say, and which is why when you see me on television, it's not often where I go on this spiel, this anti-Democrat spiel, because at the end of the day, probably about 90% of the people that I'll say about 95% of the people that I associate with on a regular basis are Democrats. They're still Democrats. I'm not hanging around with a lot of Republicans, even though, I probably
you ain't going hunting. You ain't going hunting or nothing.
I went hunting in Mississippi, my cousins ride horses, they go hunting, they're all Democrats. I mean, that's like part of the culture. But I think the thing that the Democratic Party, and if you look at what they're doing, like screaming outside of these federal agencies, singing and all of this type of stuff now, they have still failed to do any sort of serious autopsy on why they lost even in 2016. Like 2020 was kind of an interruption of things, but it gave them, a bit of bullishness going into 2020. There were some successes that Democrats had, and abortion was the issue on the table. But Democrats, 2016, 2020, and 2024 ran the exact same race against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump is a failed businessman. Donald Trump is a cheat. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. It was the same race. And people had already seen, or at least felt, what life was like during the Trump years. COVID interrupted everything for sure. But they remember things about the Trump administration. And a lot of people had been critical of voters who said, especially us, man, I remember that stimmy. Trump gave me that stimmy. As much as people mock that, what they're failing to realize is that that was an acknowledgement that for the first time, for many people, it was the first time that they felt that the government did something for them that they already wasn't supposed to do. So you remember that as something that someone did for you, because, it's not all the time that the federal government sends out checks. It's a small thing, but people have different issues why they vote for political parties. And I think that, you talk about the toxic culture, social media has helped fuel that, because it is now profitable to be toxic. It is profitable to turn on the television and you see somebody getting their viral talking point out, because they know they set it up. They can't agree on anything, both sides, whether you're Democrat or Republican, everything is evil, everything is bad. There is no meeting on the middle on any issue. And a lot of that has to do with not just the monetization, because when I wrote the article in the Washington Times on the Republican Party's Elon Musk problem, and I was criticizing conservatives, I'll say social influences on the right. And the point that I made in the article is that, Elon Musk being an unelected, unaccountable billionaire bureaucrat who owns one of the largest, at least engagement-wise, social media platforms, that you see social media influencers on the right who in past times may have plenty of criticism for things that are happening, but Elon Musk retweeting you, that may get you an instant 30,000 followers. So there is a financial benefit for people ingratiating themselves to Elon Musk, where you have Republican members of Congress tagging Elon Musk and Donald Trump in the same tweet. JD Vance ain't even in there at all, but they are literally hyping up Elon Musk. And so now, and these are the same people who told us, because the narrative is, well, we voted for Elon Musk. Well, these are the same people who said we love Vivek Ramaswamy, who co-founded Doge, and now he's pretty much a distant memory for many people. Why? Because he moved on. Anybody
now,
can
rumor has
replace
it that he's potentially maybe running for office. I don't know.
Well, yeah, he did announce. He
did announce. Okay.
Yeah, he did say that he's running for the governor of Ohio. He also lied when he went on the Breakfast Club and tried to make this claim that the reason he left Doge is because he realized he wanted to run for governor, and he threw out this potential Hatch Act violation. Whatever, Vivek Ramaswamy, you knew that you wanted to do that before you even, got with Elon Musk to create Doge. Running for governor didn't have anything to do with why you decided to leave Doge. What I'm hearing is that he was kicked out. He was, after the H-1B visa debate where Vivek Ramaswamy appeared to be criticizing Americans in favor of Indians. A lot of people around Trump world did not like that, and he was kind of falling over himself trying to explain it. But Elon is still there. But it is a monetization aspect to this support of Elon, because I'm not monetized on Twitter, but it helps you to have somebody with a large following, and so it pays to be toxic. It also pays not just from the monetization aspect. If you want to remain in these circles, if you want to get an invitation, which is why during the Biden years, you may have heard rumors about problems that people had with Biden, but they didn't get on TV to actually talk about it, because at the end of the day, they wanted to be able to maintain these contracts with the DNC. They wanted to be able to even do something as simple as getting an invitation to the White House, or as Kamala Harris, being the first VP that I've seen, open up the vice president's residence at the Naval Observatory. In order to get them invites, you got to be on board 100% of the time. And so it's the social media capital in being toxic, where everybody is, we all exist in tribes. Everybody exists in their own corners. And we, and I include myself in this, like the public, we encourage it. We don't want you talking to somebody else on the other side at all, because we see that as some sort of threat, or, people, they call me a rhino. For some people, I'm MAGA. For some others within the party, I'm a rhino. I don't care, because at the end of the day, their vote doesn't count any more than mine. When we go into the booth, you ain't voting for two people. So people will try to box you in and say, this is what you must believe if you are on this side and that side or that side. And I fundamentally reject that sort of thing. And, it's all, I'll give you an example. The White House is this week, this Thursday, I believe, they're having their Black History reception at the White House. I ain't gonna get no invitation. You know, because now I'm
I
out.
bet you Waka Flocka gonna get one. I bet you.
Oh, I'm not just Waka Flocka. I've seen people share the invitation that they received, and these are people who started supporting Trump as of this summer. Well, last summer. No real connection to the party, no real advocacy for Donald Trump. They made a name for themselves on social media being a Black Trump supporter, and that's just it. They've been invited to the White House. Now, to be fair, I wasn't invited to the White House during his first administration, but I do know people around Donald Trump, and I acknowledge they purposely left me off the list when it comes to the Black History Month. But if I were more willing to play ball, meaning when I go on CNN, when I go on CNN, I am 100% in Donald Trump's corner.
You have the hat and the whole go crazy. And I don't want to cut you off, Melik.
No, go ahead.
But you mentioned something. I think that's what kind of irritates me with, like, okay, during the campaign season, Trump had people like Antonio Brown. He had people like Waka Flocka. He had people like Amber Rose. He had folks like Lawrence Taylor, Thomas the Hitman Hearns. My issue is they do not represent the Black community. They barely represent their specific culture. Or they're in their industry, because I mean, let's be real. Antonio Brown has been off the deep end since he left the field shirtless, and I don't know what else he's doing now. My issue is, to me, that's a form of disrespect to the Black community, and I think that's why it's always interesting. Again, I would say for people to be not really say I voted for Trump and I'm Black, but being a Black Trump supporter, because I think it's two different things. I think those are two different things, because you have people that voted for Trump because, hey, it's like, hey, look, I'm focused on the tax breaks. That's me. That's my main focus. I vote for him because, hey, he unfiltered. He's not the traditional. He's not pro-establishment. I'm a lean towards that way. Hey, I was a fan of The Apprentice, so I'm just going to be a ride or die, Trump regardless. And then you have those who are, I hate to always bring names, but a Vernon Jones, former congressman out of Georgia, right? He is
former Democrat,
former Democrat, Vernon Jones, who is pro. I mean, he was a part of the crew that all dressed the same when Trump had his court cases. I remember seeing him along with that group. So I think there's two different folks when it comes to Trump supporters and Black Trump supporters, and then people Black that vote for him. I think to me that was not a misconception, but that was irritating to most Black folks. They're like, okay, if he's not, and I will not say I will call him a racist, because personally I don't know him personally. I would just say he gets caught up in some iffy things that it'll make the ammo a little easier sometimes to say, okay, he might have some he might have a little offensive tendencies, but would I fully call him that again? I need to know the person personally, but he does get caught up in some iffy things, in my opinion. Fast forward, I want to ask you the question, man. What is the misconception that at least Black people have about Donald Trump?
Well, Donald Trump kind of lives his life out loud. I've never met him. I've been in the room, obviously, with him a number of times, but I've never actually met Donald Trump. I know people who know Donald Trump, and they sing his praises outside of politics. They talk about him as a person. They talk about how he is with his family. They talk about how giving he is, not just to members of his family, but to other people. They talk about all of these things. Now, as I said, I never met him. I don't be around him. So that's just what they tell me. But I think what people...
Well, as a supporter, let me rephrase that. As a supporter, not as a person that knows him personally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think your point about people who vote for Donald Trump and the Donald Trump supporter is an important point, because that latter group, the Donald Trump support, those are the ones who their identities, their political social media identities are tied to Donald Trump. That is one group. But there's the other group like me and that's why that's actually good that you asked that question, because when I was talking earlier about my evolution, that it not being tied to Donald Trump, the personality, my turn from the Democratic Party coincided with Donald Trump being elected president and him being the very first Republican I voted for. But it is more about Republican. I've said a million times, I wish that Tim Scott was the nominee. I would have voted for Tim Scott because I'm more of a Tim Scott-like Republican. Many people in that Trump space, they don't like Tim Scott. They don't like anybody but Donald Trump. Or I'll say this, they don't like anybody who Donald Trump doesn't like. Now, he hasn't said anything negative about Tim Scott, but they'll turn on a dime on anybody. So it is all about Donald Trump to them. With me, it is not all about Donald Trump. I am concerned about what happens to the Republican Party after Donald Trump leaves. You're going to find a number of people who've built their political identities around Donald Trump who come 2028, they're going to be looking for the next chapter. Wow. And they may or may not find success there because they've been so tied to Donald Trump. And that's going to be, they're going to find it's not going to be as easy for everybody to just move on to something else. And the reason I say that, very good example. Think about the people. See, you're talking about 2024 Black people. You can add Vernon Jones in there, but think about the number of influencers who made a name for themselves between 2016 and 2020.
Oh, yeah.
The Candace Owens, the Brandon Tatums, you can just go down the list with a number of people.
The Larry Elder already had a career, really, but I mean,
right. And the reason that I'm mentioning, so the reason that I'm mentioning those two, and you could just say the Candace types, Diamond and Silk. Now, one of them passed for sure. Yep. I can't remember which one, but where were these people this time around? They weren't out there supported. Now, yeah, they support Donald Trump, but the campaign didn't use them, nor did they avail themselves. You didn't see them on Fox News. You didn't see them on any of because everybody had already moved on from them, and their support for Donald Trump had waned over the years. When Candace Owens decided she wanted to criticize Donald Trump over the vaccine, and in her first interview that she had with Donald Trump, she challenged him on the vaccine. From that moment, Candace Owens was cut off from the Trump team. But these are people who were ride or dies. I mean, Candace's Blexit had an event at the White House. That's how much power and influence Candace Owens had, not because that she was some strong advocate of the Republican Party. She was a strong advocate of Donald Trump. And what many people around him, that's what they need. And even in conservative media, they need people who are ride or die, no distance between themselves and Donald Trump, where people like me, I'm already looking at what's life like after. And because Donald Trump literally just said, when asked about, and I'm paraphrasing, you're gonna go ahead and back your VP as your successor. He basically said no. He's not ready to do that.
That is so funny you brought that up, because my mother brought that up, and honestly, my mom she's engaging with what happens on on the local level and state and federal level. But sometimes I'm like, all right, Mom, let me take a second opinion before I say, did he really say that before? Because it's like, okay, she might just look at one thing and then take it out to the masses. The fact that you're repeating that, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's gonna make her day. I'm like, wow, Mom, you're right on that one. That is crazy.
He literally said it. And so again, like, that part of Donald Trump is not concerned about what's life like after him. And I think that what Donald Trump and many of the Republicans in Congress who are concerned about the party, because they're much more concerned about the Republican Party than Donald Trump. Let's be clear about that. They need to be concerned about Donald Trump's legacy And that's what I think now with all of this stuff going on, this whole anti-DEI crusade, how Donald Trump, many people feel as if he's running roughshod over when it comes to just these indiscriminate firings. That is all. His legacy will be 4 years. He won't have 8 years to build the legacy. It will be 4 years. And when you consider that midterms are next year, he really won't even have 4 years, because I would say it's about 3. If you want to be known for, you ended DEI in government. Okay, fine. You went on the anti-trans crusade. You forced your government to remove the name trans from the Stonewall in New York City. Okay, fine. If that's what you want to be known for, that is absolutely fine. But because my identity is not attached to Donald Trump, I will be in 2028 looking for the next chapter. We're going to have a field of candidates in 2028. Governors, members of Congress. We probably will be one of our most talented field of candidates that we'll have. Donald Trump has already signaled that he's not ready to throw his hat behind his own VP, who was the person that we were told. Because see, I didn't like JD Vance at first. They said Donald Trump picked him because he's the one who's going to carry on the MAGA legacy. I can assure you of this, what's going to happen in 2028. If Donald Trump doesn't throw his weight behind JD Vance, the MAGA movement pretty much ends there, because there would be no incentive for a Ron DeSantis, a Brian Kemp, a Greg Abbott, a Mike DeWine, a Glenn Youngkin, or any number of people to toe like hook, line, and sinker.
Glenn's struggling in Virginia right now. That I will say. He's struggling right now in Virginia.
There's not going to be a whole lot of incentive for them to continue the MAGA legacy when at least the MAGA prince, Donald Trump, won't even back him. So there's going to be a free-for-all. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to need that vote or something, but what the movement itself represented, if Donald Trump doesn't back JD Vance and JD Vance is not the nominee, then you're going to leave open for everybody else to kind of get the party back to what a lot of people hope. Now the Cheney wing, that's gone. That's gone. And in fact, I would even argue that Reaganism is on the table, depending on how Donald Trump, runs these next 4 years, because the Republican Party, we've had Clinton, the Democrats had Clinton, they had Obama. You can't think of a figure as far as a president in the Republican Party that was a galvanizing movement style politician since Reagan. It wasn't G.W. Bush. I'm sorry, it wasn't H.W. Bush. It wasn't G.W. Bush. So we've had like a lull in our moment where where they always say, I remember the days of Reaganism.
Wow. Malik, I aim to cut you off, boss man. We are coming very, very end to an end. So we're good. We have to do a part 2 because I'm really, really, really loving this conversation, brother. But look, I want real quick, how can people follow you? How can people continue to follow all the great stuff you're doing and continue to tune into the stuff you're doing, on with CNN, News Nation? How can people continue to follow?
So, yes, you can follow me, M.E., because everybody want to spell my name wrong. They want to spell it with an A. Melik Abdul _ on Twitter, Instagram. Yep, you may see me sometimes on CNN. If you go to one of the Beyonce concerts, you are going to see me there. I ain't even bought my ticket yet, but I'm going to let y'all know. I don't know what city I'm going to yet, but I'm going to see her. But I just want to really congratulate you on what you're doing. You said 273. That is really impressive. And as someone who has had these, spurts of, I'm going to do a podcast, that is a lot of work. People don't appreciate just how much work is involved in doing your own podcast. So my hat is off to you and all of the podcasters out there who are doing the stuff that I am just too lazy to do. But keep going. We're definitely going to have a part 2. I always enjoy these type of conversations for sure. But congratulations on everything that you're doing. And would this be 274?
This will be, so part 2 will be, well, depending on when part 2 is. This is 273 right now. This is 273 right now.
Okay.
So yeah, so whenever we schedule a part 2, that might be whenever the schedule is easy for you, boss man. But again, I thank you for those kind words. And like I said, the conversation is getting so good because there was so many other things I wanted to ask you, but it's always so hard to fit it in with this short time. But please don't go anywhere. I wanted to chop it up with you just for a couple minutes. So I'm gonna take you on back.
I'm doing this live right now. So let's do it tomorrow. I was looking at my calendar.
All right.
I can do it tomorrow.
All right, bet. Well, you done heard it here, folks. We gonna have a part 2 with Mr. Melik Abdul. And again, fam, I thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Melik, like I said, don't go anywhere, boss. I wanted to chat with you for just a couple minutes. But I want to thank our guest, political commentator, Republican strategist, and writer, as well as radio host, Mr. Melik Abdul. What a great conversation. Like I said, we had a lot more things that we wanted to discuss. But be sure to continue to tune into the Arrington Gavin Show Monday through Fridays. We're available on all podcast platforms and streaming platforms, YouTube and Rumble. So please continue to share and leave us a comment, like. I truly appreciate it, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Until next time, my friends, peace and blessings. I'm out. Peace. Oh, hold on. I'm over here saying I'm out, and I ain't get my music out. Hold up. That's how good of a conversation it was, y'all. Let me go ahead and now I'm officially out.